On today's show, I was literally scouring the internet, and I always like to listen to new, cool, and different podcasts. And every year, I normally have like a relationship expert or a love expert or something like that on. And this year, I didn't have one on Valentine's Day. So I was like, you know what? Let's make this happen this year. And I was like, let's find out. So looked around, and lo and behold, I saw a couple of friends that followed a certain person. And I was like, let me check out their information, see what they're talking about. And they're from Arizona. I'm like, that's even better. Let's hear what they're doing in the Southwest. And so the next voice you will hear is Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick on the Nopixafterdark podcast.
The Nopixafterdark podcast is proudly partnered with Maggie's Farm. Located at 4341 Hartford Road, Maggie's Farm offers a unique dining experience with delicious handcrafted cocktails and mouth-watering cuisine, from falafels to scallops and everyone's favorites, honey sriracha cauliflower wings. Open for dinner from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday, and for brunch, Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. with delectable chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, biscuits and gravy, and more. Check out Maggie's Farm on Instagram and Facebook for daily and weekly food specials. OpenWorks is Baltimore's largest makerspace, offering access to tools ranging from 3D printers to welder, and training in how to use them. OpenWorks also offers affordable studio space, a coffee shop, and fun-free events throughout the year. But OpenWorks is more than a public workshop. It's a community of creative professionals, students, seniors, entrepreneurs, and makers of all kinds. Check out the website at www.openworksbmore.org or Instagram at open_works_bmore for class schedules, membership options, and more.
Welcome to the No Picks After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. I'm so excited that you guys are here with me today. We have an amazing show for you folks. I'm so excited. I've been working on this episode probably for 3 or 4 months. And because I'm so excited. I love all her work. She's a local celebrity back where she is at home in Arizona. She's always on TV doing big things. And I'm honored to have Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick, from a founder of Evolve Counseling. How are you doing today?
Hi, Aaron. I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here with you. Also, following you back on Instagram, and you're doing some big things out there as well. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. I know time is precious, and I never want to waste anybody's time. I always tell people time, you never get it back. And you're doing so many things about relationships. And I was like, you know what? This is a great topic right now because there's so many things with relationships. You know, I've seen the Tinder, Swindler, all this stuff going on in the world right now. And with the pandemic and with all this stuff going on, I've seen divorces happen during this pandemic. People are like, I can't live with this person no more. I realized this is not the one for me. But again, I'm excited for you to come on the show. Give a little background about yourself. Tell the audience you're from Arizona. Tell the audience a little bit about you. This is your show, I tell people.
Sure. So yes, I'm from Arizona. I own 2 private practices in Arizona, one in Gilbert and then one in the Phoenix area that we're just actually getting up and running right now. So that's been really exciting. I specialize in relationship work, so relationship and attachment. And I started primarily working with children and adolescents. And as I was working with them, I started to realize that a lot of what was going on with them was really founded with their parents, right? The parents set the culture of the home. And really, it's often the parents' maybe attachment wounds or ongoing relational struggles that they're then role modeling for their kids. And so it was a slow transition of realizing I wanted to work more with the adult population, specifically on relationships and attachment. So that's what I do with my individual work. I also, as you mentioned, I host Calm, Cool, and Connected, which is a mental health podcast and talk show. And so, yes, I stay very busy, but blessed because it's all within my passion of mental health.
Well, so I guess we'll start off with, are you originally from Arizona? Is that your home place? Is that where you've always been?
No, so I'm from California. I grew up in Southern California, and then my ex-husband and I lived in Northern California for multiple years before his job brought us out here to Arizona, probably about 13 years ago or so. So I've been here quite some time.
So you're locked into the land of Southwest. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so I'm not to say what do you like better living? Southern California, Northern California, or Arizona?
I genuinely like Arizona. So the heat gets everybody, and the desert, there's multiple. We don't have the beach, which is a bummer, but overall, Arizona is what I prefer.
Okay, I love going to Arizona. I have a cousin who lives in Phoenix, and I love going to Old Scottsdale. It's just so relaxing to go out there and just enjoy my time. My allergies don't act up when I get there. It's like refreshing. So it's always a really just unique time to go out there. I used to go out there twice a year and hang out, and just I love the area. I thought about moving out there once upon a time, and then I went out there, like you said, the heat, and I was like, yeah, it's
Yeah, that's not a thing.
we have humidity, but like it's like 110 is 110. Like it's like okay, so it's a little different. So,
Yes.
what I guess I always ask every guest this: what is your favorite childhood memory growing up?
Yeah, that's difficult in terms of like to pinpoint one. I think where a lot of my most fond memories are, I played a lot of sports. And so that is what basketball was and is my love, though I haven't done that in many, many years. And so that's probably where a majority of my really happy memories are. I have that competitive nature. I love practicing and becoming better at things. And yeah, so that a lot of my really fond memories are tied up in sports.
Nice, nice. And so when did you realize you were like, you were in school, you wanted to be in this profession? Like, where did that? Was there a family member? Was there somebody that you looked up to who were like, oh, they're doing this. I kind of want to do this, or were like, I mean, how does one want to get into this field?
Sure. So when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I did retail management. And the trend was I worked with a lot of young males and females, but it was really the females that kind of attached to me. And they would come share things with me all the time. And I was, supporting them through so much. And that's when I realized my passion, when I was saying earlier, of working with children and adolescents. So the female adolescence piece is what really intrigued me and what I wanted to work with specifically. And so it was actually through my interactions and relationships with my employees in retail that I was like, hey, there's something more here. These people need some help. And so I decided to get an education in it and pursue it that way instead of just giving this free advice on the retail sales floor.
I love it. I love it. So it's funny. That was one of my major. That was my major in college, retail management, minor in marketing, and
Oh, okay.
I wanted to become a buyer. I wanted to work at Saks, Nordstrom's, Fifth Avenue, Manhattan. That was the whole dream. And then my parents said, "That makes no money. We got to figure it out." I'm like, great, great dream, but we're not paying for New York City's rent. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." We changed that real quick. But I did, but I did something else totally different, which worked out really, really well. I was right outside of Manhattan in Hoboken, so I was close enough, but I wasn't in Manhattan. So that's really cool, that background of going to that. And like when you were talking with these adolescents, when you were like, everybody's talking about that, we all have issues as young teenagers. I mean,
Yes.
the world comes to an end when you're that age. How did you find your voice? Like, where did you find your voice when you were given this free advice and you were like, boom, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get paid for this, and I feel like I'm really good at this. Like, where there's always a clicking moment when people's lives are like, oh yeah, I should do this. Like, was there like something like that happened?
I'm not sure specifically. I was actually looking to go into law, which if you spent much time with me, that would make sense to you. And so that was the direction I was heading. And I think that it was more just my heart was being pulled to help. And so I really wanted to, so I think it was more of a slower, gradual process of just realizing that is where what I was passionate about, what my heart was taking me towards. So I don't think there was this one aha moment, but it was just these multiple compounding events that led to that decision.
Got you. All right, so I'm gonna jump around a little bit real quick.
Sure.
So when you graduated from college, what was your first job like doing this? Like as far as getting in the field and whatnot? Because
Yes.
you're a doctor, you're big time, so you got that those letters behind your name. So that's awesome.
Well, when I finished my master's, what I did for my internship, and then I got hired on there, I worked out on one of our reservations. We have quite a few reservations out here in Arizona. And so that is what I did. I worked directly with the adolescents and some children, but more the adolescents, doing mental health for directly with the Native American population. And so that was really neat for me to be exposed to that culture and really be brought into that culture in a lot of ways, and to just have a completely different experience than what I'm used to. And so that was where I started, and I did that for a couple of years. And then I transitioned from there. Most of my work early on was with, I transitioned from there into working with children in the foster system, and I did that for a few years. And so that was a lot of my work early on, was children and adolescents who were either in foster care or who, were wards of the state.
I mean, the foster care system, and you working with those children, how did that, I mean, because that's pretty tough. I have friends who are, therapists and, just talking with, so did that really just strengthen your conviction of what you're doing? That's when you went back, got your doctorate. Is that pretty much?
Yeah. I was actually during the second place that I went, and I was pursuing my doctorate. And yeah, it's definitely a heart-wrenching thing to do. There's a lot that you see through that, but there's also a lot that you see in terms of the need that there's a lack of quality care, a lack of quality providers who are really showing up for this population. And so it would be hard sometimes after work. It's not as easy to brush off as other careers. And so that would be difficult. But yeah, that is when I then decided to pursue and go further with my doctorate and kind of see where that took me. And so I eventually transitioned in, currently private practice, but I have a lot of gratitude for those experiences early on.
Nice. Well, folks, we'll be right back after these messages. We'll talk about relationships. We want to get into that. We want to get into the pandemic, how a Tinder, a swindler, all these great things. We'll be right back after these messages, folks.
All right. The Nopixafterdark podcast is fueled by Zeke's Coffee. Have you tried their coffee yet? I'm telling you, there's something different about it. Maybe it's because they roast their beans in a fluid coffee roaster, which provides the most accurate roasting temperatures and made with love. You will just have to check it out for yourself and try their delicious food while you're at it. Open now for curbside service, online ordering, carry out, and they also do wholesale. Visit Zeke's Coffee at 4719 Hartford Road. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 8 to 5 p.m. Kitchen closes at 3 p.m. or visit Zeke'sCoffee.com and you too can be fueled by Zeke's.
Folks, we are back, and again, we're with Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick. She's just dropped some jewels and gems already, giving us a little background by herself, and amazing, going through from retail therapy, pretty much I call it, to it is retail therapy, learning, and with the
Sure.
and then also then going to foster work and foster homes, working on reservations and whatnot, and then we go into relationships, which is very interesting because maybe I'm wrong. Is that totally different? Was that come for the surprise of going to relationships, or you fell into it? Like, is it like something where you're like, I want to help out people with relationships? So how did that all transition?
So it's actually a lot more connected than a lot of people realize, because when I was doing that work in the foster care system, I worked a lot with the birth to 5 population, and the attachment theory is really the foundation of birth to 5. That's when your attachment with your primary caregiver forms and solidifies. And so, and my doctorate for my dissertation was actually founded in attachment theory as well. And so it was each of these steps involved relationships and attachment just in a different way. And so it was with the parent-child relationship. And then, like I said, I was working with the children and adolescents and realized, okay, I really want to get to the root, which is the influential aspect of the parenting that's taking place in the home. And so it is all actually very tied together through attachment. It's just a different demographic each time. And then also how I'm applying the theory has shifted over time.
Nice. So let's talk. So what is your definition of relationship? What is the definition? What's this plain and simple layman for you?
Sure. So a relationship would be the bond or the attachment, the connection between two people. And this can be, coworker, parent, child, romantic, friendship. It's can show up in so many different contexts, but really a relationship is two people who know each other, who interact with each other, and there's engagement on some level. And so the quality and the amount and all of that is going to shift, but that would be the basic of a relationship, is just the dyad between these two individuals.
Nice. So then I've heard a lot of, and I know you can only say so much, but a lot of married couples with the pandemic, we're going to go right into it. And they've had a lot of divorces have been happening. Survival, what things have you seen? What have you heard from your other colleagues out there about marriages during this pandemic and the survival and things of that nature? Like, you didn't know that much about your partner, really. Like, what have you heard out there?
Yeah, so really, relationships in general of couples who were spending that much time together. Too much time is just frankly too much time, and so that's what we started to see happen. Is there was normally, you leave during the day, you have your own routine, you go do your own thing, you come back at the end of the day and you have things to talk about because you've been apart throughout the day. And what happens with, and I see this also with couples who maybe have a business together, or they live together and they work together. I see the same parallel there. And essentially it becomes enmeshment. It's too much time together, too many interactions. That increases irritability. It increases I guess I should say even decreases like the novelty of a relationship, which is actually really important for the chemistry.
Wow. Yeah. I had like friends of friends who were calling and talking to other friends. They're like, hey, how are people getting through this? Like, and how are people, like, I had friends who were like, they would every day go for a 2-hour walk to get out the house because there was ways of coping mechanism and whatnot and things of that nature. That's been a really big thing during the pandemic. A lot of people were like kind of like what you said, you had your own routine. You
Yes.
went to work, you came back, you could talk about things. And then now it's 24/7. If it's like, I guess death do us part. This is what it ain't really else. So that's always interesting. What are some things, like, as far as relationships? You mentioned on a lot of your Instagram and TikToks, red flags. You mentioned a lot of things of nature. What are some red flags that people need to see out there that they normally try to ignore? I feel like red flags are always there. People just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to acknowledge it. What are some red flags?
Yeah, that's a great point. And the thing with red flags, and I try to really normalize this as much as possible, is that we're human. We're not perfect. We all have red flags, you and me included. Like, there's no perfect human out there. We all have the influences of our upbringing, of our imperfect parents who raised us, and then all of our interactions that have taken place since then really influence how we relate to others. And so everybody has red flags, but they're on a spectrum. And so it's being aware of which red flags are really going to be detrimental and impact your mental health in a negative way, and what red flags can you potentially work through and communicate and become better together. And so some of the red flags of being aware of is how somebody communicates or doesn't communicate. So even early on when you're talking and you're dating, how long somebody might go before they respond to you, or maybe they respond to you and they answer your question, but they don't ask anything back, where it's kind of like more of these self-absorbed tendencies. That can be a huge one. And then even in relationship, communication or how you handle conflict can also be a huge red flag. And so I think that it's like really boils down to, and that's where the attachment, which is a long conversation in and of itself, but attachment theory is really the foundation of that, because how we interact with how our primary caregivers interacted with us early on really influences how we interact in our adult romantic relationships. And so oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. That's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for somebody to have an awareness of that, like, we may have an insecure attachment style, and that is okay if we have an awareness of it and are willing to work to change it and to heal. But I think that the biggest red flag to look out for is a lack of self-awareness, because with a lack of self-awareness, there can't be change.
So with the attachment, I'm thinking now, would you say that that would work with down to generation, meaning say if you have two parents, they never talk, they never speak. Does that go down to the child, and that's how the child sees how relationships are built, and they model off their parents? So that could be something that's gone. Is that something where they don't even realize it's a red flag, but that's what their normal is? Do you see that a lot in your practice while you're doing this?
Absolutely. So we truly are products of our environment. And so what you're describing is what I call relational programming. And so the way that we see relationships role modeled for us, and the way that if you're growing up with caregivers who don't communicate well with each other, that means they're also not communicating well with you, most likely. And so then you don't have the opportunity to learn how to communicate and to connect in a healthy way. And so you're absolutely right. That becomes the template that we have. And so then when we go out into, trying to find our partner, we don't know any different. That's just what's normal to us, because that's all we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some like just interesting stories just in my past time, just learning from others and whatnot, and how they handle certain things and whatnot. And it's very interesting. Like they get a lot of that from either just their family members. This is how they were raised. It's always been this way, and this is what that's what they do. Um,
Right.
so I guess that for those in the dating scene, the dating pool, and things of nature, you know, you hear about these tenders. You hear about there's so many different dating apps out there. Do you recommend those to your clients? Like, how do you feel about those? Like, there's some Hinge and there's so many. I can't even, but I've seen like I've gone to a couple weddings that people who met off of eHarmony and stuff like that, which is great. To each his own. How do you feel about that? And like, do you tell your clients to try out and take that leap in faith going that way because things are so digital now?
Absolutely. I definitely encourage dating apps. I encourage that they are done in a healthy way. And so we're still being aware of red flags. We're still practicing communication. But actually, the dating apps are a really good platform for some of the work that I'm doing with my clients, for them to start practicing, right? For them to pick up on the red flags quicker, for them to notice behaviors that aren't healthy. And there's a statistic that recently was released that about 30% of relationships present day are met through dating apps. Like they are very, it's what we're doing these days. And so I for sure encourage it. But we got to be safe, and we got to be careful about how we do it.
See, I'm old school. I'm not gonna, I was so I'm gonna tell my age here, but I remember going to the mall on Friday night, and then you meet girls in the mall Friday. That was back in the day. I had the pager and whatnot. And, you know what I mean? I'm out dating myself. Kids don't even know what pagers are, but and then you have to pay phones, and like you're like, oh my god. Then if you're dating or courting somebody, your parents are you didn't have call wait, so the line would be busy when somebody would call. You're like, Mom, I'm getting somebody. She's calling me, and
Yeah.
because you didn't have any other way to communicate. You're like, call me at 7. I'll be there. And your mom was like, and then it's busy. And you call back, and then her dad picks, you got to hang up. These are things so those are things that were so different. And then going out and meeting people at the bars and meeting. And so it's very interesting that I see like how the world has changed so much. And I never thought about it until you said that you can weed out those red flags and what you want in those, I guess, categories and whatnot. So that makes a lot of sense when I think about it right now. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because I mean, you and me both with the pagers, right? I had the clear one. You could see all the wires through it. I mean,
Right.
I'm right there with you.
Right.
So
That's what it is, and so I get it now. Like I just never understood like all the whole, scene. Like I was out with a couple of guy friends. We were in Miami. They're on Tinder the whole time. I'm like, bro, let's just have fun. Let's just go have drink.
yeah,
And it's like it consumes the person. And like, so the thing about, and I always, the theme and the principle is like, let's get off our phones and let's just
right,
have a good time, and enjoy yourself, I was with a friend who was on a date and he was like, the whole time, this girl is like on her cell phone. And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, this is like, like, so to give you a quick background, the party, so Nopixafterdark was originally a party. And the theme was you don't take any photos after dark because we want people to enjoy themselves. We don't want people taking selfies and like enjoy your time with that person. So
right.
I'm like anti-technology, even though we are using it right now. But I use it for everything else. But when you're out and enjoying yourself, so that's why I always understand like those dating apps. That's where I'm going with the dating apps and all that stuff. I'm like old school. Like, hey, why don't you go out and say, hey, meet up a happy hour or find, that's my theme. But
Right. And that's the other concern with the dating apps. You're absolutely right that they are consuming, right? So in the same way that social media, how it's designed is like always sucking you back in, it plays off your dopamine. And so it's pulling you back in the what's next, the what's next. And that is the one concern I do talk, or one of the concerns that I talk with my clients about is the decision fatigue that comes along with dating apps that, if you go to an ice cream shop that has 30 flavors versus if you go to one with 3 flavors, that's different. There's a limited number of decisions. And so the dating apps really can feel overwhelming because you're always waiting for the what's next.
right. And that's, you're addicted to it. You're like, oh my
Yeah,
God, I swipe. Oh, I got a match. All right, is he gonna hit me back? Or is he not gonna hit me back? Like that's the excitement. So I'm like,
yep,
so I look at it both ways, and I think it's to each his own, and that's the world we live in. Everything's instant gratification. So I get it. I
sure.
understand that. So have you ever heard of this? Is gonna be a funny one. Have you ever heard of a thing called cuffing season? Have you ever heard that, Doc?
I have.
Okay,
Yes.
and like it's like spring training, then winter time comes around. Do you think that's a proper name for that? Well, for those who don't know, it's like when it gets winter time, people start finding their loved ones. It gets a little bit cold, a little bit warmer. They always say big guys are a little bit better because it's a little bit colder outside. You know, so what are your thoughts of that? I mean, is that a bad word saying that, or like what would be a better word? You think?
Well, my thoughts on it is that it does make sense from even like an evolutionary perspective. We are designed for connection. We're designed to be with people. And so when the season comes around and you're feeling lonely, you're feeling kind of cold, like okay, it makes sense. I think it could be a detriment to your long-term, like if you are actually looking for a serious long-term partner, that's going to be detrimental because you're picking someone maybe below your normal standards, you're dropping some expectations just to have the warmth, right? And so that could have some long-term impacts, but it also makes sense because we don't like to be lonely. We like to cuddle. It's how we're wired.
Right, right. So I had to throw that in there. One of my listeners were like, "See if she knows what cuffing season is." So that's why I threw it. Yeah. So, again, what would be your advice? Just for the singles out there, people who are we're getting out of the pandemic. Everybody's ready to be single and mingle and have a great time. I mean, I'm looking at spring break videos. I'm like, oh, people are back out like it's no
A
other.
while and out.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. It's like, I saw a lot of babies during the pandemic. I'm sure there'll be uptick on kids 9 months from now because people are just like you said, wow, no, they're outside. As we call it in Baltimore, we outside now. But like, advice would you give people right now who are looking for that one? Just are they settle for whatever? Do you just say, whatever? Like I've been lonely for 2 years. I've been straggling along. I just need somebody to be with. It's summertime. What would you give it? What advice would you give?
So I would not suggest that. I would not suggest settling for just that short term reprieve, which, like I was saying, that's truly going to just set you that far back if you are truly looking for a relationship. What I encourage my clients to do is to make a list of what I call their 5 needs and 5 wants. So they identify these 5 needs, which are their like deal breakers, non-negotiables. Okay, so whatever that might be for somebody. And then they also identify 5 wants. And so maybe this is more about physical looks, or it's more about hobbies or interests, things that aren't necessarily deal breakers, but are preferred. And that they have this list. If you're truly serious about finding your partner and finding your long-term relationship, which, by the way, I'm a big believer that life is about seasons. So it doesn't mean it has to be somebody you're with for the next 30 years. But if you're looking for somebody serious, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to be intentional with that. And so that's what I suggest to my clients. Have that list, put it somewhere you're going to see it. You start talking to someone on a dating app, really make sure they at least check off the 5 needs before you even move forward with the date.
And one thing I didn't want to go down a rabbit hole, but maybe this could be another episode. And because I've heard a lot more of this now, and maybe it's always been around, but maybe I'm just getting older and learning and hearing more about it. And this is a whole different episode right by itself. Open relationships. I've been hearing a lot of people who I didn't even know were like friends with. They're like, yeah, we're just, Hollywood swinging, like whatever. There's a whole different beast. I know,
Yeah.
but are you seeing a lot more of that now in your practice? And I mean, I guess it used to, well, it's probably still is frowned upon in some circles and lights, but are you seeing a lot more of that now?
Sure. Yeah. The polyamorous lifestyle is picking up popularity. And I think it is because, to your point, it is becoming more accepted. It's becoming more talked about. And so it is becoming more normalized. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say I see a tremendous influx of that in the clients I work with, but I do have a handful of clients in that they are part of the lifestyle, is what it's called. And that all of the principles that I talk about in terms of red flags and healthy relationships and communication and all of that is still just as applicable to individuals who are part of open relationships as monogamous relationships, because it still matters how you're treated. It still matters, how you're engaging with people. So yes, to your point, it is more common. But in my belief, the basics still are the same in terms of the quality of a relationship.
Yeah, I threw that was a little loop, a little trick shot there. So
No, it's an interesting topic for sure.
it is, and I've had people talk to me about it, and they're like, "What are your thoughts?" And we've heard more about it. I was like, I don't really know anything about it. I see it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it. Again, to each his own. So I don't know. So it's one of those things that I'm learning and trying to educate myself a little bit more about the lifestyle, like you said, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I always ask everybody these questions because it's the fun part of the episode. The whole episode is fun, but this is the speed round here.
Okay.
All right. Sushi. Do you like it raw or cooked?
Cooked.
Okay. All right. Tacos or pizza?
Oh, pizza all day. Pizza every day, actually.
Camping or the beach?
The beach.
Okay. Flats or drums or chicken wings?
Drums.
All right. Blue cheese or ranch?
Ranch.
All right. And what inspires you every day?
My clients, genuinely my clients, the work that I do that I see people growing and making progress. And that is just constantly pushing me to want to continue to learn more, to be able to help more.
And what is the best advice you've ever received?
Probably when I was a small child, my dad would always tell me to be bold. That was his we would ask him to go have a conversation for us. Nope, be bold, go do it. And he's instilled that in me from a very young age. And I attribute that to where I'm at today.
Hey, thank you so much. Tell people about your podcast when it comes out, your business, where they can find you, social media, Twitter. You plug yourself. You already, but go ahead.
Sure. So the podcast is Calm, Cool, and Connected. We are on all major podcast platforms. My website for my practice is evolvecounselingaz.com. And then for social media, my handle for Instagram at Dr Elizabeth Fedrick, and then also same for TikTok. Not super active on TikTok, but Instagram, very active on there. Happy to engage. Love to jump in the DMs and just engage with, whoever wants to chat.
We could see. We could. That's a whole different. That's a whole different relationship thing that's happening.
Okay, wait. I don't mean it like that.
That's a whole different episode. I mean,
that's funny.
it is. I mean, that's like the new way of dating, I guess.
Sure.
Shoot your shot. You don't never know. You might make one of those baskets.
I guess I should clarify that. I'm not looking for anyone to slip into my DMs, but if you are wanting to chat about something, a post, things like that, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you for taking time out your day for hopping on Nopixafterdark podcast. This has been an amazing topic. Hopefully, I can have you back on later because I really believe that people need to hear about relationships, and we could talk about sliding DMs and open relationships because I think that's a really big topic, and you have really dropped some amazing knowledge for me and for my listeners. I'm excited for this episode to come out. So I really, really appreciate that. And please support her business out there. My people who live in Arizona, I have quite a few Arizona listeners out there actually in my show. So I really appreciate your time. Anything else you want to say to the listeners before we head out in Baltimore?
I don't think so. I appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our time together.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. Love, peace, and happiness. We're out.